Hello, I am Vladimir Shirogorov, a historian, and author of the books War on the Eve of Nations, Conflicted Militaries in Eastern Europe, 1450-1500, and Strategies of Ukrainian War, 1500-1800, that is now in print, and many other books and essays published in the United States of America, Germany, Italy, and other countries in Russian and English. It's a webinar 3 preceding my course, Military Strategy for Warfare, Politics and Business, that I am planning to start at the end of May. This webinar is committed to one of the crying issues of the current economic agenda, the new trade tariffs that are imposed by the current American administration of President Donald Trump. I study the new international policy of the current American administration by the instrument of comparative history and comparative strategy that opens new perspectives on the current policy and that affords not only to study them and analyze them, but also to make the prognosis. The name, the title of the current webinar is Strategy of Doom or Boom, and it has a subtitle. It is a guide for survival inside disaster. Why it has this subtitle? This subtitle is the most important thing, because we are going to compare the Ottoman Empire on the eve of its decline in the 17th century and the current United States of America. And knowing what happened with the Ottoman Empire, we could make a prognosis for the United States. And this prognosis is not only a prognosis for the country as a whole, but also it could be a personal way for each of us for survival and success in this epoch of grand transformation. Similar to my other webinars and my course, this webinar has an abundant slides that providing much more information, much more questions and analysis than my verbal speech, because the printed essay is always more deep and wide than the oral speech, and it affords more accurate conclusions and more striking questions. So, Strategy for Doom or Boom, Guide Within Disaster. I will attempt my slides that I will present for attention of everybody after this webinar on my channel with Telegram. Before we analyze the current strategy of the American administration in comparison with the strategy of the Ottoman rulers in the 17th century, we start from the upper point, from the point of the Ottoman greatness and the American greatness. The upper point of the Ottoman greatness was in the middle of the 16th century, as well as the top point of the American greatness is located in the first decade of the 21st century. What were the main factors of the Ottoman greatness? First of all, the abundance of the natural resources. The Ottoman Empire had the best agricultural lands in the world, located in Egypt and Asia Minor and Balkans. It also had deposits of the main industrial resources of the time: iron, copper and silver, ore, timber, and so on. It had one of the best in the world human capital. Similar to the United States today, the Ottoman Empire at the beginning of the 17th century was the third in the world country by the volume of its population, following disintegrated China and India. Besides its own population, the Ottoman Empire had unlimited supply of slaves from Eastern Europe and Near East, and willing resettlement of all necessary experts in different industries from Europe and Near East that were attracted by high salaries on the Ottoman service. The geographical location of the Ottoman Empire was unrivaled. It was located at the joint of the key global regions: Western, Central and Eastern Europe, Near East, Western Eurasia and North Africa. The Ottoman Empire had the best manufacturing facilities because it inherited the industrial capabilities of the Byzantine Empire, Syria, Egypt, Balkans, and other industrial centers of the medieval epoch. The Ottoman Empire had the most developed finances in the world because it was the leading supplier of the precious metals, either in bullions or in minted coins, for the international exchange. Due to its excellent geographical position, the Ottoman Empire was the king of the international commerce because it occupied the crossroad position on the transcontinental communication lines between Asia, Iran, India, China, and Europe. Due to these factors of greatness, the Ottoman Empire had great achievements. First of all, it had the most massive economy in the world. Second, it had the strongest army, consisting not only of the traditional, for the epoch, feudal levy, but also the most advanced regular troops, such as the troops of the Ottoman palace slaves, janissaries, artillery, and navy. The Ottoman Empire achieved unstoppable conquest in the most important regions of the globe, such as Eastern Europe, where it advanced in the northern Black Sea region on the territory of modern Ukraine, in the Near East, where it advanced to the Persian Gulf and North Africa. The Ottoman Empire kept the holy centers of Islam, Mecca and Medina, and claimed the leadership in the world Muslim community, the Caliphate. Proceeds from the conquered Ottoman provinces like Egypt and tributary peoples like Transylvania, Moldavia and Wallachia that are now Romania covered most of the Ottoman spendings for navy, luxury life of elite and social welfare. the factors of the American greatness are surprisingly similar to the factors of the Ottoman greatness in the 17th century. First of all, its abundance of the natural resources with the best agricultural lands in the world and deposits of all natural resources and raw materials that are in need for modern economy. The United States of America had the great human capital. It has not only the third volume of population in the globe, following same China and India. It has unlimited supply of migration from Latin America and South Asia, and willing relocation to the United States, the experts in the most advanced industries. The geographical location of the United States of America is similar, excellent, like the location of the Ottoman Empire, because the United States is located between the most important poles of the global development, China and Europe. The United States inherited from the industrial epoch of the 19th and 20th century the most massive industrial capabilities. But besides the traditional industries, the United States has the most advanced region of the modern digital economy, California. The United States of America is the similar leading supplier of the world finances because it print and supply for the global exchange and reserve the main international currency, dollar. The United States of America keep the top position in the international commerce because it gained the position of the supplier of the final goods assembled with the parts, with the components, labor cost and resource cost components supplied by other nations. New York and other American grand cities are the centers of the world consumption, and many national economies and industries depend on the American demand. Fruits of the American greatness are similar to the fruits of the Ottoman greatness in the 17th century. First of all, it is the most massive economy in the world and strongest army with the most advanced troops equipped with the technically most modern weaponry such as space, nuclear, high precision and unmanned arms. The United States of America control most important regions in the globe, such as Europe, oil Arabian countries of the Near East, Japan, and some other poles of the world economy and politics. The American ideology has its primacy over the globe, and many developing countries has the American economy, the American way of life as a pattern of their future. Proceeds from the protected American investments over the globe and investments of other countries such as Europe, China, Japan, in the American economy, in the American bonds, cover most of the American spendings for army, welfare state, and luxury life of American elite. From this top greatness, both the Ottoman Empire in the 17th century and the United States of America at the beginning of 21st century came to the brink of decline. What were the symptoms of the Ottoman decline? First of all, the symptoms of the Ottoman decline appeared in the international affairs. The Ottoman expansion stopped. It was stopped either at the hard defense of the Ottoman enemies like Spanish and Austrian Habsburgs in Mediterranean and Hungary, or it was stopped in the grey zones where the Ottomans were struggling with their new rising enemies like with Russia in nowadays southern Ukraine, like rebels in Yemen and a new royal dynasty in Morocco. The zones of the Ottoman problems surprisingly coincide with the zones of the American problems today. They are the same: Yemen, Ukraine, and North Africa. The principal allies of the Ottoman Empire, first of all France and South Asian Muslims, were not so ardent to support the Ottoman expansion as they were before, and the Ottoman dominions like Moldavia, Wallachia, and Transylvania started to look for another allies. First of all, the Habsburgs in Europe, and the Crimean Khanate, the main supplier of the military resources for the Ottoman Empire, started to run more self-sufficient international stance. The Ottoman Empire had also huge domestic problems. Among them, there were the economic stagnation. Growth of the Ottoman manufacturing stopped, and it required import of the foreign technical innovations to develop any technically new products. Usage of the Ottoman natural resources reversed. The agricultural lands shrank, and the Ottoman agriculture stopped to meet the demand of the Ottoman cities, and the most advanced products on the Ottoman market, such as, for example, the gun barrels, were changed for the import. The budgetary income of the Ottoman Empire didn't meet the needs of the government spendings and expectation of the society, and the national education in the Ottoman Empire shifted to the religious and law disciplines, depriving the real economy of the necessary experts. Considering these economic and international problems, the social problems appeared in the Ottoman society. First of all, the Ottoman society that functioned before as the integral community of faithful ones of the Muslims split to the warring social groups that struggled over state power and the military to achieve their egotist interests. symptoms of the current American decline or the current American situation are surprisingly similar to this Ottoman picture. First of all, it is self-minded allies, fail of the military grip on the most important regions of the globe, and turn of the rivals into enemies. The elites of the former American dominions like Europe and Southeastern Asia started to be more independent, less influenced by the American command than they were before. The American allies started to form the regional blocs out of the immediate American control. America spent huge resources similar to the Ottoman Empire to preserve its control over the main global regions. It committed grand armies and resources to wage war in Kosovo, Iraq, Afghanistan, and Ukraine, without achieving the final aim, without restoring the control over these most important global regions. The American rivals, China, Russia, Iran, and some others, started not only to rival America by soft means, but also they started attacking the American interest by force, frequently by military force. The United States of America also met huge domestic problems, similar to the problems of the Ottoman Empire. First of all, it's the decline of American manufacturing. Now most of the American market of goods for consumption are dominated by the foreign producers, including the most technically advanced goods. Usage of the natural resources in the United States of America declined, and now a huge part of the American market of raw materials and other natural goods such as oil, electrical power, metals, timber, and so on are occupied by the foreign producers and suppliers. The budgetary proceeds of the United States are inadequate to meet the spendings for army, welfare states, and other social expectations. And the American national education is now focused on law and fine arts, depriving the real economy of necessary experts. The social problems attack the United States of America in the similar way like they attacked the Ottoman Empire on the eve of its decline. First of all, the ideal of the American dream declined, and the American society changed from the community of equal opportunity to a group of the warring social clans that are struggling over the political power and military to achieve their egotist interests. Considering this situation, analyzing this situation, the Ottoman rulers of the 17th century and the American rulers before the second term of President Donald Trump exercised similar strategies. The strategy of the current administration of President Donald Trump, is different. What was the strategy of the Ottoman rulers? First of all, they pressed renewal of the external expansion. They looked for another objectives for their aggression and found them, first of all, in the northern Black Sea region, on the territory of modern Ukraine. They enforced their allies back to alliances by interfering in their domestic affairs. They increased exploitation of the tributary peoples, extorting maximum resources for their domestic markets. The Ottomans ran the economic policy similar to the economic policy of the American administrations before the current administration of President Donald Trump. First of all, they favored the domestic consumption by increasing supply of foreign goods, taking away all restrictions for import, and forming the guilds, the societies of consumers. And the Ottoman rulers imposed the strict social segregation on the Ottoman society, first of all by imposing on different social classes the special military and political functions. The social class of the palace slaves of the Ottoman sultans and religious top arrogated the military forces and political administration in the Ottoman Empire, curbing all other social groups of the political life and military administration. Strategy of the American rulers before the current administration of President Donald Trump was similar to the policy of the Ottoman rulers on the eve of the Ottoman decline. However, the current American administration changed the economic and foreign policy of the United States in the radical way. First of all, the current American administration is committed to reduce the foreign expansion, to get out of international commitments whenever possible, dropping the American obligations of involvement in the affairs of different regions. First of all, it's Europe, South Asia, Near East, and so on. America is segregating from its former allies and exiting their internal affairs first of all. America is leaving alone its former dependence and tries to substitute their products on the American market by the local production. First of all, it concerns oil, metals, and other raw materials. The administration of President Donald Trump is burdening the society of consumption by the tariffs on international trade, and it is restricting the luxury life of American elite by ravaging the financial markets, on incomes from which the luxury life of the American elite depends. Knowing outcome of the Ottoman strategy, we know what could happen with the United States of America if the current American administration does not change the American policy. What happened with the Ottoman Empire following its eve of decline at the beginning of the 17th century? First of all, it was widespread civil war of the old social elites of the Ottoman society, of the palace slaves and religious top against the new social classes of the Ottoman society that represented growing ethnic consciousness of the Turks. The civil war in the Ottoman Empire continued from the last decade of the 16th century to the first third of the 19th century, more than 150 years. The Ottoman heartland was devastated by migration of nomadic Turks and Kurds. The Ottoman Empire lost Ukraine, North Africa, Egypt, and most of the Balkans. The principal Ottoman enemy, Russian Empire, ascended to the position of international hegemon in Eastern Europe. The Ottoman Empire turned into the crippled man of Europe, and its existence against the Russian pressure was supported exclusively by the international alliance of Britain, Prussia, France, and Sweden. The Ottoman Empire missed the most important trends of the modern period: the military revolution, the industrialization, and formation of bureaucratic nation-state. Really, it degraded, became poor, and refined Ottoman culture ceased to exist. It perished. It could be a destiny of the United States without the changes that President Donald Trump started. It's possible that changes of Donald Trump bring the worst future for the United States of America, worse than if the former political line would be continued. But knowing what happened with the Ottoman rivals, first of all, with Ottoman rivals in Europe and with the main rival of the Ottoman Empire, Russia, we know what could happen with the United States if Donald Trump would be successful, would be sufficiently insistent in continuing his current political line. First of all, it is the radical change of elites in the same way like in Europe and Russia the former feudal elites were changed by the new capitalist elites. Sporadic civil unrest is imminent. It wouldn't be the same total civil war like reigned in the Ottoman Empire for 150 years, but it would be sporadic but fierce incidents. Loss of the global domination, global hegemony is inevitable, of the United States is inevitable. However, the globe would be administered according to its split for the zones of interest of the great powers with possibility of their agreement for their good interests. Final of the society of easy and cheap consumption in the United States of America is inevitable as well. But most important, most striking prognosis, if we compare the current American situation with the situation of the Ottoman Empire and Europe in the early modern period, is appearance of new dominating resource in the society. In the early modern period, instead of the leading feudal resources of land, labor and military force, the resource of capital became the dominant, the hegemonic resource in the society. In the same way, now the resource of capital must be changed by another dominant resource. What kind of resource it is, it will be? It's possible it is control over the artificial intelligence, or it could be some other resource, we don't know. But this change is inevitable, and it is the main prediction from the Ottoman and American comparison. I'm Vladimir Shirogorov, a historian, and author of different books in Russian and English, published in the United States of America, Germany, Italy, Russia, and in other countries, in English and Russian. It is a webinar 3 preceding my course, Military Strategy for Warfare, Politics and Business, that I am starting to teach at the end of May. Follow my channel with YouTube and Telegram. Subscribe to my course, and we will study the current international affairs, the most important international events, comparing them with the experience of the past. Goodbye.